Hello and welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, August 1st, 2017. We are coming live from the W4CY studios here in West Palm Beach, and I hope all is well with all of you guys. Well, I'm back from Chicago. I'm so excited to be back in Florida. I gotta tell you, I miss my family and everything, but it was such an amazing trip. The Chicago Open Air concert was amazing. I got to visit my family, got to see my friends. I didn't get to see everybody as I'd like, so I gotta reach out to a bunch of people and kind of be like, I'm sorry, but you think 3 weeks you'd have enough time to be able to do all sorts of things, but I was a little lazy too in Chicago. It was nice to just relax, so I spent a lot of time by the pool just floating around with me and Nira and everything like that, but it was such a great time. It's sad that I only go there, I go there twice a year and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be there I guess this December. It'll probably maybe be next July, next August, somewhere around there. But if you tuned in last week we had to replay an old show. I came home, and of course, you go on those planes and stuff, and you get to breathe the same air as a bunch of people, and I came home with a scratchy throat. I really couldn't talk that well. I just, it's just raspy, and I already have enough problems talking as it is, but yeah, so I just figured, give my throat a rest for a week and everything like that. So I just wanted to send out my apologies, but we are back, and I'm all excited. So if you live in the West Palm Beach area, I am collecting clothes for the homeless every year. About twice a year, I do a drive where me and a couple of my friends get together, and we collect clothes from everybody, and we go around and we drive around in West Palm Beach, Florida, or Fort Lauderdale area, and we go to all the places where homeless people are at, and we hand out clothes. So if you are interested, please give only what they could wear. It's not meant to clean out your closets and just give me junk with a lot of things that we can't use at all. But, things that they can wear: shirts, sweaters, pants, shoes, socks, stuff like that, jackets, anything that they can use, because the winter months are coming up, and I know it doesn't get that cold, but there are a few weeks here in Florida that gets cold. We will give you the email later at the end of the show for you to contact us if you're interested. If you'd like to give us a call, you can call us at 561-623-9429. You can web chat us on the W4CY.com website. Make sure you download the W4CY radio app, and as always, the archive will be on YouTube at youtube.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Well, tonight's show is all about, I think tonight's show, I think there's something that we're going to talk about that I think everyone in the world has experienced. Every single person, including myself, has experienced some sort of letdown or heartbreak, due to someone being dishonest, a dishonest relationship, a dishonest friendship. And, we've all had our hearts broken. And so I wanted to do a show today that dealt with our pain of the past relationships, because whether it's a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship, we put our trust in people. We put our energy in people, and we try to build these relationships. We try to build these bonds and these friendships. And a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes people do abuse it. People take advantage of it. And, and for some of us, multiple people take advantage of it. And, if you're anything like me, and you're sensitive, and you're very, when I was young, I came into this world, I had a big heart. I still have a big heart. I'm just more careful with it. But you come in bushy-eyed, bright-eyed tail, and you just, you're just ready to, you're just so excited, and you love to give who you are, because you're kind, you're compassionate, you're caring, you're giving, And you learn really quickly that not everyone in the world is kind of like that, are they? And the funny thing is I bet you, I was talking to a couple people, and I always say, I bet you can pinpoint, the day or the multiple days that someone has hurt us, or even broken our heart, especially when it comes to our romantic relationships, or someone that we deem as like our best friends and stuff. We use those terms, best friends forever, and all these different things, family. We use all these different terms very loosely. And, and as I'm going to say in this show, I don't tell people I love them. I don't tell people that they're my friends or family unless I really mean it. But you got to earn it. But can you pinpoint the day that somebody hurt you? I bet you right now, if I asked you, I said, take a moment and think about it. How many times can you remember that somebody's truly hurt you, that somebody truly broke your heart, that maybe there was that day that you just felt so betrayed by someone you called friend, or you called boyfriend or girlfriend, or family, and they just broke your heart? Well, the fact is that, for many of us, because I love psychology, and I love the way the brain works, and I love the way people learn, for many of us, we replay that pain over and over daily. It replays in our head kind of like a broken record. And, those type of images keep fueling ourselves for the anger. It allows our anger to come out. It allows and it builds that distrust within humanity. It builds that distrust within ourselves, and chaos erupts. I look at it and I say, one of the number one things that we have, that we have issues with is our relationships, and how we build them, and how we're going to, how we heal from them. For most people, we don't really heal from a lot of our past. Even if we found that perfect person that we're going to spend the rest of our lifetime, or we have a group of people that, or one or two people that, that are really loyal and really honest with us, but still, to the rest of the world, we're always looking over our shoulder, aren't we? And for many of us, we become angry, we become resentful. And a lot of times, when fueled with that anger, and we're fueled with that resentment, we go out, like we got to go out and prove to ourselves in the world that we're somebody, that we mean somebody. Nobody else is going to push us around. Nobody else is going to take advantage of us. And bitterness kicks in, doesn't it? Bitterness is something that that we're going to talk about a little bit, but bitterness is a destroyer, just like anger and just like resentment. It all kind of mixes in with each other, but all of our relationships will suffer. And all of our relationships have suffered. If you work from anger, if you work with resentment, if you're bitter towards people, if you are one of those people that replay those situations constantly in your head, you dream about them, and you find yourself, seeing other people, and then you remember, oh, well, I remember when that happened to me, and it's constantly in your face, then I know that you suffer from your relationships suffer. I know that you have distrust. I know that all these things are going on. But how do we begin to regain our trust in others and build relationships that we truly desire? How do we resolve the anger, the pain, the suffering brought about from our past? Well, the first thing I want to look at is, whenever I look at relationships, is why. Why do they haunt us? What is the thing that drives it? What is the fuel? What is the thing that drives it? And most of the time, people always say to me, well, Miss Raina, I was wronged. That it wasn't fair what was happening to me. It was unjust. Well, depending on the situation, if we look at things as right and wrong, and we know how I feel about the words right or wrong, but a lot of people will say that, they also feel betrayed or scammed. They feel that they put their trust in somebody. They thought that they could, be loyal to this person. This person was going to be loyal to them, and all of a sudden we find out it's different. But one of the biggest things that haunts us is that we take things personally. And this is probably the most important thing. And if you're one of the people that listen to my show, you will know that I talk about taking things personally all the time, because it's taking things personally that is one of the most fundamental things that we do. It's the reason why our brain is conditioned to that idea of taking things personally. Because how many of us really go around and have this idea that things are supposed to be a certain way? People are supposed to act a certain way, and we actually believe that. When we feel wrong, wronged, when we feel unjust or betrayed, or when we take something personally, our brain is actually believing that everyone is supposed to act like us. Everybody is supposed to act like me. Because I would go and do this, that this is supposed to happen. And because I'm loyal to you, you're supposed to be loyal to me. And because I'm honest and our brain really creates this cobwebs of confusion if we allow it. And and how many of you really say stuff like that? How many of you go around saying, like on a daily basis, or when you see something, when someone has wronged you or betrayed you, or you feel hurt, or someone rude across the street, well, that's not what I would have done, or maybe, oh, well, I wouldn't act that way, so why should you? And people are supposed to be this way, and this is an idea that we're setting ourselves up for pain. We're setting ourselves up for this idea. And this is why in the fundamental things that I do, I teach my 5 no-nos of no wrong or right or good or bad or positive or negative. Because in those ideas of judgment, we create these sentences that say, well, that's what I would have done. Well, that's not the way people are supposed to be acting. That's not the way things are supposed to be. But then again, if we take a look at life, who says what way things are supposed to be? Well, our society kind of teaches us, or it's supposed to teach us when we're little kids and everything like that. That everyone's supposed to be honest, everyone's supposed to be helpful, everyone's supposed to be happy towards each other and treat each others with kindness and everything. But people's happiness, especially in relationships, are basically based upon the personal ideas and insecurities of the way they should be. I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about every single time you go into a relationship, and I don't just mean romantic. When I talk about relationships throughout this whole program, I mean, platonic, friends, stuff like that, family relationships. I mean relationships of all kinds. But think about how many personal ideas that you go into, the expectations that you go into of the things that you expect somebody to have, or the way you want them to act. And this creates a whirlwind of that wronged or unjust or betrayed, because we don't allow people to be who they are. We expect them to act the way we have this idea of the way they should act. And how can it not create anger? How can it not create this false perception of being wronged? Because if you have this idea of judgment that says, well, these people are supposed to act this way, and when I'm in a relationship, you're supposed to treat me this, and this, then you're not really accepting the person or seeing the people for who they are. I mean, that is nice. I believe in honesty. I believe in loyalty, respect, and gratitude. I believe in all that stuff. However, though, I know that reality is we all have different perception of what honesty means. We all have different perception of what gratitude means or loyalty means. And even when I have the conversation about the little white lies, and this gets brought up all the time, and people will always say, well, Miss Raina, you're supposed to, for the most part, I don't lie, but, I lie sometimes for the right reasons. And I say, oh, really? The right reasons? Well, what are the right reasons? And they say, well, I don't want to hurt the person, or I don't want to, or maybe if they're doing something that I'm not there, and I just don't want to create a chaotic situation or a fight or something like that. I go, but all those ideas eventually lead down to a fight. They all lead to a chaotic situation. You may have spared your moment of that time of not creating that fight, but by pushing it off creates a bigger judgment down the line, creates this bigger insecurity of the way things should be. And that sets you up for being wrong. That sets you up for the betrayal, the feeling scammed and taken personally, because you have chosen to ignore the things that are happening in this world and the relationships with the people. When we are young, we watch TV, don't we? We go to school. School teaches us, and TV teaches us all the little. I mean, I grew up with Sesame Street. I know there's other programs now, but to be kind, right? To be honest, to be respectful, to be truthful. To love one another, and friends and relationships are supposed to have deep meanings. They're supposed to last forever. You're supposed to, be 2 peas in a pod, and it's supposed to go on through the rest of your life. And you know what? That's great if that actually happens. If you find someone that actually happens, there's a childhood friend that you've known forever and ever and ever. I mean, that is something so rare. But but for those of us who've got big hearts, those of us who are like me, we buy into it, don't we? We buy into it that all people are going to be like that. That we build this expectation. I'm going to tell you a little something. I still love watching Disney. I still love watching Nickelodeon. It's one of my little dirty little secrets that I do. I'd rather have cartoons on or Nickelodeon or Disney all the time rather than, half these drama shows or reality TV shows because I just don't like the fighting. But, I watch these shows and I could see psychologically how they're setting people up for this because they all talk about these wonderful friendships that are unbreakable and everybody should talk things out and everybody should do and be kind and be honest with each other, and when you make a mistake you're supposed to correct it and own up to it and all these things, and that's great. I think that's great, but I also think that for a lot of people who have the big hearts, that we expect everyone to be like that, and when we build that expectation we become naive. We become naive to the reality of the situation of people. And not everyone believes in having a meaningful friendship. Not everyone believes in being honest. Not everyone believes in the same, as you would say, values or morals that you have. And without getting on the subject of values and morals, but those are just subjective ideas too, because what might be right for you or might be moral for you may not be for somebody else. And we fight about these things daily. But we have to take a step back because we're adults now. And, yes, we can find those people out there, they may be finding a needle in a haystack, but we can find those people out there that maybe believe in the honesty and the kindness and the respectfulness and the truthfulness as you do. But when we're young, we're very naive. We buy into everything that's told. We buy into what our parents tell us. We buy into society. We buy into what school tells us because we don't know any better and we're trusting our world and the people around us to guide us. And this is where we have to take a step back because people who are kind and generous, like I said, are often naive, or people who are caring are often naive for the reasons of that because they can't contemplate the ideas of hurting someone. If you're, say like you're one of those people that get really upset over someone being raped or murdered, or even animals when they're going to have like the put down the dogs or whatever, or the animals, and you get really upset. It's because and it's great that you have that emotional sensitivity, but you can't comprehend in your brain hurting something. You can't comprehend how people can create those hurtful actions. And this is what really destroys us. When we have a comprehension problem, when we can't understand why someone did something, it really eats at us. And that's the question that you're really trying to answer. Why did this person treat me like this? Why did this person say one thing and act like this? Or why did this person say this and do something completely different? And that's the naivety that we have to understand, that we have to learn to let go of. It's great that you want to go out there and put, love and joy and compassion into the world. It's great that you want to have lifelong friendships, or you want to find the perfect husband or wife for you or whatever and stuff like that. But before we get to that, we must look at the things that are stopping at us. We must look at the ideas that are controlling us, that are creating the chaos. The problem is with caring people and nice people, and that is you give it up too easy. You just give it up way too easy. You're too easy in that area. You trust way too easily. And you gotta hold back. You gotta allow people to earn it. You gotta allow people to be able to, to understand who you are and be able to build on that. We'll be right back after these messages from the Life of Raina.
A message from the Life of Raina. We live in a world faced with many tough challenges. Our lives become chaotic and filled with disaster ever so quickly, most of the time before we even realize. Our issues beat down our mental mindset, and an imbalance of emotions become prevalent. The Life of Raina is dedicated to helping people on the deepest spiritual level. Miss Raina, The creator of Transcendental Development and Growth works on your core issues and finds the solutions which allow you to break free from the emotional bondages of life, helping you achieve the life you've always wanted to live. Isn't it time that you lived life for you? Call the Life of Raina 561-846-2190 and schedule your appointment today. That's 561-846-2190. Or email thelifeofraina@icloud.com.
Okay, welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Miss Raina on Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. If you'd like to give us a call in with your questions, the number is 561-623-9429. Also, you can hit us up on the web chat on the w4cy.com website. So before we took a break, we were talking about having kind and caring people give it up too easily. We do. We give it up too easily because we have we're naive in that sense. We have to learn to allow people to earn your trust. You have to learn how to people to earn your friendship, and you have to allow people to develop that love. When our insecurities are kicking in, and we're being controlled by our emotional chaos, and we're just really trying to grasp for straws, as I call it, we're still willing to just give it up. We will give it up to anybody and everybody that just smiles at us, because we want that friendship so bad. We want that relationship so bad. We want that closeness, that bond that we want with whoever so bad, that we just are willing to see past all the red flags. And allowing somebody to earn your friendship, allowing someone to earn your trust is very healthy. I'm not saying become a snob about it and being like, well, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you really have to crawl from across the country on broken glass in order to be my friend. But take things slowly. Start slowing things down. When I was talking to my protege the other day, one of the biggest things that we still work on is time. Everybody, he's always thinking that we're running out of time. I got to know everything right now because, even though I'm 21 years old and I'm going to be, my life's going to be over tomorrow. And we react like that. And so we're in such a rush to get these things. We're in such a rush to build these friendships, to build these relationships, to get that husband, like I said. And we don't look at the possibilities of all the situations that comes up. Time allows us to see people for who they are. It allows us for the truth to come out. When in the past you've rushed into everything, think about all the relationships that you have had, whether they're platonic or not, and think about all these times where you have rushed into something. And what has happened? What has happened in each of those relationships? Have they ended well for you? Have they ended in chaos and pain and suffering? And then you're blinded by your emotions, and you kind of become chaotic. You kind of become emotional. You don't understand why this has happened. You're like, well, what happened? I don't understand. And then you kind of beat yourself up. You go in the victim role this person did this to me. This person wronged me. Again, we take it, and it's a vicious cycle. When you slow down, you allow your emotional side to relax. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. If you want to start to heal your past relationships, slow down. That's the first thing that you must learn to be able to do, because you cannot allow your insecurities to control you. Especially once heartbreak happens. When heartbreak happens, we don't think clearly. Anytime we become emotional, we do not think clearly. You have to allow yourself to heal. You have to allow yourself to go through the pain, but you also have to allow yourself to let go of it as well. Your confidence, once heartbreak happens, once these relationships fall apart, once someone betrays you and you're taking it personal, your confidence and your self-esteem take the biggest hits. Those are the things that make you act out of fear. Those are the things that, instead of seeing truth, you see you're blinded by everything. You must learn to disassociate from that. A lot of times I always tell people, the more kind someone is, the more giving someone is, the more caring someone is, a lot of times after hurt, the more angry and resentment they act out of, the more fear and lack of self-esteem they react from. It's a vicious cycle. So I want everyone to be honest, because this show is always about truth and honesty, and I just want you to be honest with yourself. Who right now is listening to the show and lives a life full of anger? You're constantly angry at something. You're constantly annoyed. People who are angry at you, or people who are rude to you, or people who do something, type of rude action or whatever, and you're distressed. How many of you are live in resentment, especially towards those that hurt you? How many of you constantly think about the people that have hurt you, especially past relationships? How many of you have wished that you have never met that person who has hurt you? That you would have seen the truth in them and the situation way before it ever happened? And how many of you are now loners or date less when it comes to romantic relationships? You don't even bother. You kind of throw on, I know for women, we kind of just throw on sweatpants, we pull our hair in a ponytail, and we'd rather hang out with our friends, because why? We don't trust the opposite sex, and vice versa for men too. And and so how many of you constantly have these thoughts? How many of you constantly wish that you've never met that person who's tore your heart out? One of the true tests of anger, if you want to truly test someone, is if they're in resentment, is if they're constantly using phrases like, well, people are stupid, or they're saying that the opposite sex is they don't get them, or they're constantly putting down, everyone's incompetent, the opposite sex is incompetent, why should we bother, why should marriages falling apart for this reason, and friendships don't matter. When we use stuff like this shows that anger and resentment is fueling you. I was on Facebook the other day, and I saw a diagram of a picture, and someone drew a bunch of people, and they were aging from infants all the way to elderly, and they all had hearts on them. And and the infant had a huge heart on them, and the title said something like, well, when we're born into the world compared to when we leave the world. And the elderly person had such a tiny heart on their chest that you couldn't barely see it. And as you showed, it showed this heart gets smaller as the older you got. And everyone liked it. They had thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of likes and hearts and everything like that. And so many people, and I scrolled through the comments, and everybody was agreeing. And I looked at them, and I sat there, and I said, well, I was like, well, this is truly sad that people believe this, that people think that life has to be this way. Why do we believe that life has to be this way? That when you're born, you have such a big heart, but by the time you transition back home, your heart's going to be shriveled. But, if this is the way society truly believes, then, this is the way society is going to be. But we have to be able to shift our perception. We have to be able to change this, because you can have as big of a heart today, or when you're about to transition, as you did when you're a child. But we cannot have that heart if we are constantly in anger, if we're constantly in pain or resentment, if we're constantly calling other people stupid or incompetent, and we think that we're the only ones that actually know what's going on. If we buy into this, if we buy into all the social media hype, because let me tell you something, people, if you're one of those that are on Facebook and you take all these quizzes and all these other social media things, and you're constantly buying into all this stuff, you're buying into your anger, you're buying into it, and it's just reaffirming to you that life is like this, that there's no other way that life can be except for this, that you're supposed to suffer, and that people are always out to get you. There are people that are going to break your heart. There are people that are going to, be dishonest. There are those people out there. That's just the facts of life, and we have to accept that. But that doesn't mean we have to accept who we've become. And this is what we have to change, because I want to take your anger, and I want you I want you to take your anger. I want you to take the anger that you're driven by, that's driving those ideas of pain and suffering. I want you to take those ideas and be able to transform them into something that you want. How would that be if everything in your life didn't suffer anymore? How would that be if you were able to have that heart like you did when you were a child, but had the knowledge of an adult and you were able to balance that out? That would be amazing, right? Because I don't think any of us truly want to go into any relationships jaded. I don't think we all want those friends. I know I want those friendships. I know I want those relationships. If I choose to date again, that's something that, of course we all want somebody to be honest and caring and loyal and be there for us. But we also have to realize that we all have things to work on too, and people are people. We can't expect perfection from anybody, even ourselves. But don't you want to be happy? Don't you want to have that trust in friends and boyfriends and society? Don't you want to believe in life again? So how do we? How do we learn to believe in life again? Well, like I said, the first thing we have to do is stop taking things personally. I'm going back to that first thing that we said. When the first thing we're going to do is stop taking things personally. I want you guys to say with me right now. I want you to sit there and say with me right now, I am not responsible for the actions of others from my past, present, or future. And I'm going to repeat that. I am not responsible for the actions of others from my past, present, or future. So what does that mean? That means that we are not responsible for the way people react. We are not responsible for the way they treat the way they treat us or other people. The only thing that we are responsible for is ourselves. And as much as that is, and that's a hard concept, maybe some of you who like to help people, like to heal people, that may be a hard concept for you to understand. But the sooner you understand it, the sooner a lot of this pain and anger will subside. Why? Because the truth is you're taking on the responsibility of other people, and you can't. The only person you're in charge of is you. It's nice to care about people, and I'm glad that you're a caring person. I'm glad that you're one that wants to change the world and make it a wonderful, smiling place full of sunshine and rainbows. I'm so glad for that. But the fact of the matter is that you are responsible for you. Anytime we believe that when we want to help people that we have to, we have to make sure that things go a certain way. And again, it goes back to the way we perceive things. It goes back to this. But, if I say something, how many of us can actually sit there and say, how many of us have been in a conversation with a friend and we've said something, or even not through a text message? I know every single one. I even just had this happen to me the other day, and I responded, awesome, but I didn't put an exclamation point on it. And, they were like, okay, and they took it as I was being moody or something. Or I don't know how they took it. But how many times do we say something and people hear it a completely different way than we actually meant it? And then you go and try to jump through hoops to make this person settle down, and all it does is create more chaos. Now they're upset and you're upset over something so silly. And that is because you choose to involve yourself in that. And when you realize that you're not responsible for how people act, it's almost like the screaming parent, and I mean the screaming child. And I know I've said this a million times before, but if you have a screaming child and you give in to the child every single time, what's it going to learn? What's it going to condition itself to scream in order to get what it wants? It's the same thing in relationships. It's the same thing with friendships. It's the same thing with family, and it's the same thing with everything else you deal with. The actions of others has nothing to do with who you are. Anything that anybody does has to deal with them and them alone. And I know that people have, I've been hurt before. I've only had one relationship in my life that has actually been somewhat healthy. The rest of it, every single one has been either verbally or physically abusive, mentally abusive, or they cheated on me every single time. And so, and at first, when I was younger, man, I took that to heart because I gave them a piece of me. I gave them all my heart. I was honest. I was there for them, and they betrayed me, right? They wronged me, right? But then all of a sudden I took a step back, and through my training and through everything that I do, all of a sudden I realized that, wait a minute, their actions have nothing to do with me at all. Actually, the reason why they did this has nothing to do with them or with me. It has to deal with them. So say like someone, I know people that have a fear of commitment like to cheat a lot. And I'm not saying all people do, but in my experience, that's what my experience with the relationships were. Everybody who has had, maybe have come from a house that has had a lot of relationship problems, maybe divorce. I've always seen that pattern in my relationships. And then I realized, well, they're not doing it because they're trying to hurt me. They're doing it because they're trying to save face for them, because they're so afraid of something else that they don't even comprehend that they're hurting somebody else, that they react out of their own selfish needs. It's all about their insecurities. It's all about their pain. It's all about their emotional downfalls. And people, as I've talked about before, people are trying to survive, and they will do whatever they need to survive. And that's just one of the facts. People believe that life is all about survival, and we're here just trying to keep our head above water. But life can be beautiful. But you have to stop taking of what other people do personally. If someone's rude to you, let them be rude to you. It has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're just having a bad day for once, or maybe they're just miserable, and you got to show them compassion, because if their life is that, and their perception of life is that miserable that they need to be mean to people, well, then they need a lot of compassion. They need the understanding. If someone judges you for something, whether maybe it's your sexuality, I know that's a hot topic right now, then let them judge you, because again, they need the compassion, they need the understanding, because they don't understand that life can be beautiful, that people aren't, not everyone is out to get them, and they can control that. You must realize that relationships also are nothing more than lessons. That every single person that comes into your life, that comes in, whether it's a platonic relationship, friend, whatever, shows us what we have to work on. Everything you do in your life is to show you who you are, what you need to work on, to test you at what you're here to do. And it's a fundamental thing about life. And when you change that, when you change your perception from everybody's out to get you to this person came in to, like, with a spiritual contract to teach me something, when you actually understand that, you won't be mad at that person anymore. Why? Because because the more pain, I always tell people, the more painful that someone causes, the more pain that someone causes, the greater the lesson. And somebody has to take that contract with you. Somebody has to take that role. And, of course, you're going to victimize yourself by it, because that's what we've been conditioned to. That's what you condition yourself to do each time. But you should be honored that someone came into your life to teach you that lesson. If you know me, you know about I always call it the crash of 2011. I was just getting out of a horrible relationship with someone, and it was verbally, mentally abusive. And then all of a sudden I had these people in my life that I thought were my friends, and because I had other things going on and I was going to school and different things, my mind was clouded. And like you, I didn't want to see certain things, and because of that, these people weren't actually my friends. That the whole family was actually professional scam artists. They come, they befriend you, they steal all your information, take your medical licenses, open up practices, buy houses. And I actually had this happen to me, and it was one of the toughest times out of all the things I've had happen. It was one of the toughest times in my life, because it happened all at once, and I had some other things going on, but those two things by themselves were just, and I mean, it was like 2 years in the making of this manipulation. And at first, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God!" They like people were more upset about it than I was, and they're like, "Miss Raina, why aren't you upset about this?" I was like, because these people, and I did, I cried, I was hurt for a little while, but at the same time, I did understand that this was a huge lesson. But it reopened my eyes. It reopened my eyes to things that I have stopped looking at because, I got caught up in life. We go to school, we do different things. Sometimes we sacrifice who we are for different things. And I'm no different than anybody else. And I did. I sacrificed my spirituality a little bit because it kind of separated me from people a little bit. And I figured, well, I'd rather have some friends than, and it brought this whirlwind. But without these situations happening in my life, I would not be where I'm at today. Each person, if I found these people that scammed me, bought houses, stole my medical license, opened up businesses and with my license and everything, if I found these people now, I would hug them. I really would. And I would say, thank you for coming into my life. Why? Because you have brought me to an understanding. You have brought me to an understanding of who I am, what is important in my life, and what I need to do for me. And that I was sacrificing myself just to be liked or just to have this in my life when in reality it wasn't real. And yes, I could have victimized myself. I could have said, "Oh my God, how could somebody do this to me?" I could have let my ego get into it. And I said, "Oh," and I could have just let, like a lot of us do. But I have to realize, just like you, that every person has to endure pain. Every person has to endure heartache and play the fool. There will always be dishonest people, like I said. The trick is not to turn yourself into the people that you despise. I see that so much every day. Even my cousin, I love her to death, and I spent some time with her in Chicago, and she's a great person. And, she's like, "Oh, I want to change the world." But at the same time, all she's doing is creating all this anger and hate because of things that have happened in her life. And I reached out to her yesterday. I said, "You know what? I really think we need to look at what's going on here." And I'm really hoping that she does, because I think she has a great chance at the influence. But if you turn into the thing that you're so far against, then you've already lost it. Being honest, being caring, being giving is great. And I love that. I love the fact that you are like that. The world needs more people like you. But again, you are not responsible for how others act or what others do to you. Let yourself back into you. Remember the old child that you used to have? Find that child. Find that child with the big heart. Find the child that wanted to do stuff, that had dreams, that wanted to be giving, that wanted to be caring. Find that child and make peace with it. Make peace with him or her, and yourself, and even your current self. Realize that you have been at war for the past, however old you are, from childhood to now. You have been at war with yourself over what other people have done. And so what if you've made mistakes? So what? Who cares? It's time to get over it. You've turned against you and for somebody else. And I just don't get that. Why should you choose somebody else over you? Why should you choose somebody else's insecurities over the life that you want? So again, I want you to say something with me again. From this moment on, I choose me to love and to care for above all else in a healthy and happy way, as long as now as I trust in who I am. And I want you to remember that, because trust develops within you. You have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn to be able to do it. You have to let go of that war. That war will tear you apart as it's doing. And I know that you've gone into relationships and you've gone in there with doubt. I know you've gone trying to make friendships and you're skittish about that. I've gone through that too. But take a step back and get to know people. As I said, time will tell everybody. You always find out who people are. No matter how much smoke and mirrors they try to show you, you will always find out who people are with time. Take a step back and say, "You know what? I'm choosing me today." And every time you go to get upset, every time you go into a friendship or a relationship or whatever, say, "No matter what happens, I am going to love me and I'm going to choose me." And even if this person tries to create chaos or pain or suffering, I am still going to choose me, because from this moment on, I choose me to love and to care for above all else in a healthy and happy way, as I now trust in who I am. Trust is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. You want to heal from the past? Then, like I said, stop victimizing yourself. Stop the internal, make the peace. Start developing trust. Trust doesn't come from outside. Trust comes from inside. You want to see trust in the outside? Well, develop it inside and learn to trust yourself. Learn to be able to read people and see things and not be so anxious to just give it away. And you'll start to realize that trust isn't outside. Remember, as I've said so many times before, life is not happening outside, it's happening inside. Everything that you experience, even my voice right now, and listening to this show or watching me on the YouTube channel, is happening inside your head. It may appear that it's outside your body, but it's happening inside your head. Everything that you experience is inside you. And so what? If we had those toxic relationships that in the past, that doesn't mean we have to have them again. You have to learn that there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no justice or injustice. There is just growth and lessons. You have to learn that. You have to learn to take a step back and say, you know what? This person, what did this person do for me? Yes, this person hurt me in this way, but what did it really teach me? Well, maybe because this person cheated on me, now I know the signs of this happened, and now all of a sudden it doesn't happen to me anymore. And maybe I've helped out a friend or two or somebody else that I saw the signs happening, and I helped them save their heartache too. How do you know what all these lessons are coming into your life for? But if we victimize ourselves, we hold on to that. You choose every single day to hold on to as much pain and suffering as you choose to want to hold on to. And only you can choose to release it. Only you can choose to pass it. And you know what the funny thing is when you realize the stuff that I teach, you're going to realize the power that you had this whole time. And then that victim's going to want to kick you in the butt again and say, why didn't I do this sooner? Why was I so caught up in my emotions? Why was I so caught up in what I thought society told me or my belief systems? And then I realized that all I had to do was choose me and see things for what they really are. Because again, the people that have hurt you have done you the biggest favor in your life. They have brought you to an understanding of yourself. They have taught you the greatest lessons in their life to carry you on to the person that you will be or that you're becoming. And it's only you that chooses what kind of life you want to live. You want to live in pain, then you're going to live in pain. You want to live in suffering, you'll live in suffering. You want to live in happiness, you'll live in happiness. But the past is only painful if you see yourself as a victim. Become friends with yourself again. Learn to be who you are. Find love, compassion, understanding within yourself and those who have hurt you. And I promise you, the pain will be a ghost of the pain of the past. All right, everybody, that is tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what we're going to do next week. I haven't thought that far. Like I said, I was talking to Chad earlier, and I said my brain's been having a hard time coming off vacation, but I'll let you guys know. But if you want, follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Follow us on our YouTube at youtube.com Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Go to our website, soulandspiritguide.com. Sign up for our newsletter to receive VIP access to hidden shows that I offer. You can email us at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. Make sure you visit the w4cy.com website. And I will, guys, see you next week. Remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a great weekend.